Hi and welcome. This time around we have a product I want to take a look at, another one from VEVOR, and it's a product I wouldn't ordinarily give a second glance to, except I've kind of seen an interesting trend that I wanted to check out and see if the trend continues. So that trend is in a slow improvement in quality in the foreign manufacturers of, really inexpensive machinist tools. And in this case, this is a 4-inch chuck, 3-jaw chuck from VEVOR, and they claim that the jaws are Rockwell C58 to 62 hardened, and they claim that it will maintain an accuracy of 0.002, which is not bad for a 3-jaw chuck. And when I first got into machining 5 or 6 years ago, there were some definite issues and qualities with chucks like this, like you take them apart and they're full of grit and nasty stuff. I wanted to see if that's improved, and I wanted to see if the quality's improved. So I took them up on the offer, even though I didn't exactly need this. Looks like they packed the jaws separately. That's interesting. So these jaws are supposedly ground and hardened. Did they identify them as to which jaw they were so you could put them back in the same spot? 0607. Oh, 2. Yes, they did. They did identify the jaws as to where they come from. Comes with the really small chuck key that is not quite a 1/4 inch and doesn't look like 5/16 either. Oh, this could be 5/16. It's pretty close to 3125. So you probably could, if you had a 5/16 drive, you could use that. Small chucks can be really handy, especially on things like rotary tables. I didn't have an exact need for this one, but like I said, I was just trying to pursue what the quality or improvements are, because if I find out that it's really good and its list price is $55, $54.99. So that's an amazingly low price for so much work they put in this. And it comes with inside and outside jaws, as you can see. I did want to point out before I get a little further that the packaging is more than adequate, and a lot of the Asian-made stuff doesn't survive shipping to the United States, but the quality of this one, plenty good. The foam survived, the box survived. Especially when you're doing heavy steel items, they tend to have an issue. So anyways, that's a good plus. Alrighty, so these jaws are the reverse jaws. These would be the inside, these are the outside jaws. You can tell because the scroll only goes one way on them, so they'd only fit one way. It's got an oiler in the center. The thing was well oiled when I received it. The machining looks pretty decent quality, actually. It looks like it's been ground on all sides. We're going to test that out in a bit. The bottom looks a little rough. Here's my precision ground flat stone. Let's see. It looks like it was ground, but coarsely. Although I got to say, I'm not finding any burrs and not pulling off any extra material, so that's a good sign. It came with 3 bolts to mount it to something, which is a nice plus that they included that. It mounts from the bottom, so you put this on a plate and mount it. I think we should take this apart and see how it's put together. I'm kind of interested because this is different than most of these. So most of the 3-jaw chucks I've seen, you unscrew the top and the bolts go through and they hold like the back section on, and there's a split line at the I forget what they call it, the scroll pinion, I guess would be what it is. And this one is not. This one looks like everything comes in from the bottom, and it's plastic, no less, which is interesting. So this chuck is very, very smooth, and it has 3 pinions. That's amazing. This is, remember, $55. I don't know how the heck they make this. So we're going to take this apart and check it out, because I'm very curious now. They use slotted screws, which are not my favorite, but they're not overly tight. At least that one's not. That's a good sign. The pinion retention set screws are coming in from the bottom as well. And I gotta tell you, I have a more expensive, I had a 6-jaw chuck, and it was worse off. So there's some corrosion in here, just on the bottom of this cast gear. The gear itself, the teeth look pretty darn good, and it's very smooth. It's surprisingly smooth. I can easily rotate this with my hand. gear on one side, scroll on the other. The scroll looks pretty clean. I guess I can pop these guys out as well, the pinions. Need a different size screwdriver. So this is just a cover. It doesn't actually hold anything in. So the fact that it's plastic is not a big deal at all. As a matter of fact, it probably just makes it a little bit lighter. So if I pop these set screws out, that should release the pinions. Not overly tight. And so far, haven't run across too much in the way of grinding grit, which I thought I would. Yeah, these are clean. The other thing that, like when I bought my 6-jaw chuck, that one I got a while ago, not the Bison that I have now, but the one before that, it was full of burrs too. So when I took it apart, I had to deburr it. Okay, this is still pretty tight. That's a really close fit. Holy cow. So this was ground to match. Look at that. That was a really good fit. I'm impressed. So the inside of this is ground too. So there is a little bit of grit inside. So if you got one of these, it would be worthwhile. It would be worthwhile taking it apart just to clean that out, because there is some grit inside. But I'll tell you what, if I can get a $300 or $400 equivalent 3-jaw chuck, and all I have to do is just take it apart and clean it and potentially deburr it, which so far I don't actually have to do. They did deburr it and they chamfered all these edges. So that's pretty impressive. There's a little bit of corrosion on the inside. That's the discoloration, and that's what discolored the oil. There's just a tiny amount of grit that I could feel, but not a ton. And the scroll itself has a ground flat top. The sides are just machined, but the top is ground flat, which is interesting. And the gears are just machined, not ground. Although they did grind this flat too, I guess, to make it parallel. So not bad. Doesn't need deburring all over the place. I figured it would for sure. That's a little sharp, but that's okay because that's covered by this, so you wouldn't even be exposed to that. So the pinion covers that, so that's not a big deal. And the fit and finish is surprisingly good. I'm impressed, actually. So I'm going to finish cleaning this guy out. There is, like I said, a tiny bit of grit in the oil, which might have been related to this rust. I don't know, because it's not very much. You can just feel it on your fingers. And then I'm just going to reassemble this, and let's do some tests. So as I was taking a look at this, because I'm going to be putting it back together, they did number the jaws, 1, 2, 3, but there's no numbers on the chuck itself. So I pulled these other jaws out, and I can't put them back where they were because I figured since they're numbered 1, 2, 3, they'd have matching numbers on the 3-jaw chuck, but they don't. So you're going to have to add those yourself, and then probably or quite possibly regrind this thing in to make it accurate. I might have totally blown it. So if this thing oh well, you know, maybe they have to go back in a certain spot because yeah, these aren't, the scroll starts in a different position, so they have to be in a certain order. I don't know. We'll see if we'll see how accurate this is after I'm done with this. May have to regrind the jaw faces in when you're done. But let's reassemble this guy. So I'm just going to add a little bit of oil down here. This is Vactor I'm putting in here, just a little bit. None of that is ground down there. It's just machined, which is sort of interesting that they did that. All right, so even though it's machined, this is a really good fit. There's no wiggle at all in this. So I'm impressed that they were able to pull that off. The inside could be rough ground, but the gear itself is just machined. I don't know how it's so darn accurate. They did really impressive work. That is a very smooth scroll. Okay, this is just a dust cap. That's all it is. It provides no retaining abilities whatsoever. So the fact that it's plastic is insignificant, and probably one of the reasons they were able to make it as inexpensively as they were. Okay, let's get the jaws back in. So sequentially, they're going to have to go 1, 2, 3. But was one here or one here or one here? I don't know. So let's just guess. If this is the VEVOR symbol, then I would guess that one would start counterclock. Let's see, does these go in counterclock? Didn't even think about that. Let's see. Oops, this jaw does go this way. It goes this way. Okay. So that would be 1. That would make this one 2. Which would make this one 3. So I'll get the sequence right no matter what, but I may not get them where they were ground in position. Oh, they met really nicely though. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Very smooth. So I wonder how hard it is. Let's check the oiling hole out. Yeah, that works just fine too. All right, let's just verify the Rockwell hardness of these guys. So sorry I don't have you closer, but I don't have any easy way to get a camera over here at this point in time. So I'm going to bring this up. This actually fits, the stylus fits just perfectly in between there. So that's bonus. Aha, that's why. Okay, I need to have this over a little bit. I didn't have it preset right. I couldn't get the preload to go where you preload it. So that's right on there. Set our 0 and let it go. The needle's moving very slowly, which makes me think it is quite hard. And I come up with Rockwell 47, not the Rockwell 52 they were talking about. I don't know if you can see this, but there's the dimple. Let's just try one more just for the heck of it. I am trying on a non-machined surface. I guess I'll try the side just in case they case hardened it and they didn't case harden it inside. I don't know why they wouldn't. But we'll try it on the side of the jaw, and we'll get our preload set and 0. There is a specific amount of time for this. I forget what it is. Something like 20 seconds. And that one's 42. So I can tell you, it doesn't meet the claim of Rockwell C 58 to 62. It is Rockwell 42. So that's a little bit disappointing, but they are hardened. They're just not anywhere near as hard as they said. So to fix that little dimple made by the Rockwell diamond point, I took my precision ground flatstone and I just ran it back and forth here. And you can see how it took the burr right off. And it didn't remove material anywhere else, which is why the precision ground flatstones are so useful. All right, so here's my setup. I know these jaws are out of the chuck quite a ways, but since I'm not actually holding much weight here, that's not really a big deal. All right, so I've played with the set true adjustment on my 6-jaw chuck, and I've gotten it within less than 1/1000th all the way around here. So let's see where we are on the shaft. This is a ground carbide blank, so it's probably accurate, I would guess, within a couple tenths. And that is quite a few thousandths. That would be about 8/1000ths out right now. Okay, so maybe I got the jaws back in the wrong order. Maybe this is not number 1. So let me take the jaws out, put them back in one over, and see what happens then. So the screwdriver fits in here, so I can get these out quickly because I can barely fit the chuck there. So this is number 2. Right now, number 1 is next to the VEVOR right here, and this is number 3. So we're going to rotate this, and well, let's just try with the best guess. Let's say this one was number 1. So let's go for that. So number 1. By the way, this carbide bar is from Micro 100, so I trust that it's been ground pretty reasonably accurately. Okay, that's still about 0.08 out. So there's only one other position these jaws could have been in since they have to fit in order. We'll try that one, which would be 1 opposite the VEVOR. No, that's better. It's out by 0.05. All right. So 5.5 thousandths. That's about the best I can get out of this guy with the body dialed in. So let's assume that the body and the center of that grind are not perfectly concentric, which would be a little problematic, but let's just pretend that's the case. So let's dial in the whole chuck. All right, so now we've got it less than 5 thousandths. So once I've got that dialed in, I guess let's try for repeatability first. And that's good. So with a 1/2 inch, taking it out and putting it in, I'm less than 0.5 thousandth. That's a good sign. All right, let's try a different size altogether. I've got a 3/8 inch. All right, I actually had a 5/8 inch carbide ground, and for that guy, it's 1.5 thousandths, which is under the 2 thousandths. So here's what I've discovered, that the outside is not concentric with the grind on the jaws. So it would probably behoove you to dial in the outside if you buy this chuck, and then regrind the jaws on the inside so that they were concentric with the outside of the chuck. But if you're just going to screw this down to a plate and dial it in, that's no problem. And when you change sizes of things it's holding, it only varied by, well, by 1 thousandth. It was out a 0.5 thousandth. Now it's 1.5 thousandths. So that's not bad. That's within spec. And here's the 3/8, and it's about 2 thousandths, actually 1.5 thousandths out. 2.5. So pretty close to their spec. My final conclusion is that this 3-jaw chuck for $54.99 is probably still a decent deal. There are some problems with it. Inside, the fit and finish is pretty clean. The scroll is not ground, it is machined, so that's probably responsible for some of the inaccuracies here. But also the outside that's ground very nicely is not concentric with the grinding on the jaws themselves on the inside. So if you buy this chuck, dial in the outside and then grind the inside to match. Don't forget to preload it. So that's a caveat, but again, $55, this is a pretty darn good deal. If you went to buy a Bison or one of the big name 4-jaw chucks, they're still going to be probably $400 or $500. And the reason is they're probably a lot more accurate. The scroll's probably ground. The gear teeth are probably ground. This is just machined. And so they saved some money and you lost some accuracy. I was able to hold about 2.5 thousandths accuracy, which is a little bit worse than the 2 thousandths they promised. But, you know, that's not a game changer. If you're looking for an inexpensive 3-jaw chuck, this might still be a deal for you. I think it's okay. Thanks for watching. Hope you find it useful. Hope to see you next time.